Heidi, and I am here with my very first video that's not my introduction, and that video today is going to be the 10 standalone novels that I would like to read in 2016. So we will get started. The first one that I would like to read is called Ready Player One, and that's by Ernest Cline. This is a science fiction dystopian, and it is set in the year 2044. The world is in total disarray, and people spend their free time in a virtual world trying to solve puzzles that will ultimately lead to an actual fortune. Wade Watts, who is the main character in this book, he stumbles upon the first puzzle, and when others find out that he stumbles upon that puzzle, he has to defend himself against real-life dangers in order to survive. This one has been recommended on BookTube quite a bit, and I found it at Costco, so I thought that I would read it. The second book that I want to read is called Orphan Train by Christina Kline. It is a historical fiction, and this was actually recommended to me by my friend Martha, and she absolutely loved it, and so I picked it up. It is about a 17-year-old named Molly Ayer, and she is about to age out of the foster system, so she is an orphan. In order to keep herself out of juvie and out of other trouble, she takes a community service project or job helping 91-year-old Vivian Daly clean her house. As Molly helps Vivian go through her trunks in her attic, she learns the story of young Irish Vivian, orphaned in New York City, who was put on a train with hundreds of other orphans headed to the Midwest, and their destinies are determined by fate. And Molly begins to realize as she's hearing these stories from Vivian that their lives are not as different as she first thought. So I'm really excited to pick up this book and read it in 2016. The third book I want to read I actually got from a conference called the Allen Conference, and it was one that I went to for the very first time this year, and it's for teachers and librarians and media specialists, and I'm actually going to do a video about that on another day, and I'll tell you about it. But it is All the Bright Places by Jennifer Niven, and I actually met her, and she is just phenomenal. She was super nice to everyone that she talked to, and she spent time to actually have a conversation with you. And this one, I believe, is actually signed by her, and I actually had her sign it to my class because all of the books I had signed at that conference, I had her sign to my students. So it says, for Miss Johnson's class, you make it lovely, and she signed it, so that's really cool. Anyway, this is a young adult contemporary, and it is about Theodore Finch and Violet Markey. They are both alone kind of in their own worlds. Theodore is consumed by thoughts of suicide, and Violet is counting down the days to when she can leave the town and be done with high school and escape the memory of her sister's death. When the two meet on top of a bell tower, which is actually the opening scene in the book, so I'm not spoiling anything, their worlds collide and they begin to find the good in themselves. And I actually got a copy of this book from my good friend Sandy, who's also a teacher, and she actually gave me a copy of this book. She had an extra one, and then I ended up getting a couple at the conference too. I went back to my hotel room that night, the day before the conference, and I ended up reading like 2 chapters before I went to bed and just fell in love with it. Now I haven't picked it up since then, but I need to do that, so that's why it's on my list. The fourth book on my list is The Siren by Kiera. It's a young adult fantasy. I heard that it was about like mermaids before I actually read the description, and it's not, but I love The Little Mermaid in Disney, and so that's why I picked it up. But it follows Kaylin, who was rescued from drowning in an ocean, and then to pay, I guess, in payment for whoever saved her, she has to become a siren. And sirens, based on Greek mythology, are women who use their voice to lure humans to their deaths. Sirens were actually brought up in the Odyssey, if you ever read that. I actually taught the Odyssey for years, so that's why I was kind of interested in this as well. Kaylin spends her time watching humans and wishing she could be normal when she meets a Kinley, I think his name is. After living life by the rules, she is determined to follow her heart straight to a Kinley, so I'm really excited to read this one. The fifth book that I want to read in 2016 is called The Boys on the Boat by Daniel James Brown. This is a history nonfiction, and this was recommended to me by my coworker Bill, who is actually my 7th grade social studies teacher and my swim coach, and I work with him now, and he's awesome. But anyway, he recommended this to me, and it is the University of Washington's 1936 8 oar crew, so rowing. They are on the journey for the Olympic gold in Berlin in 1936. This book draws from the crew members' diaries and journals as they progress through their journey of trying to win that Olympic medal, and he absolutely loved this book, so I'm excited to read it. The sixth book I'm going to read in 2016 is Children Shouldn't Play with Dead Things by Martina McAtee, I think is how you say her name. This is a young adult fantasy paranormal, and actually Martina posted on Instagram that she got 20 extra copies of her book from her publisher and she was giving them away. And I direct messaged her and I said, I would love to have a copy of this in my classroom. I'd love to give it to my students. Please let me know. And she ended up sending me 6 signed copies of this book, plus some book swag, bookmarks, and different little book, I think they were like packages. They had like candy and pencils and stuff in them. Really cute little signed note, and she just was super sweet and sent me all this stuff for my classroom. I was going to bring one home and start reading it that day, but they actually all got taken by my students. So I just got this back, and that was in November. And so my students are just devouring this book, and I feel like I need to read it too. Anyway, she did sign it. Very, very sweet. I've talked to her on Instagram a lot, and she is like the sweetest woman, and I can't wait to read this and give her a review on GoodReads, and everyone else should go pick this book up too and give her a review because she is awesome. The next book I want to read is actually written by an author in Minnesota and teaches at one of the colleges. He's a professor at Minnesota, and it's A Brief History of 7 Killings by Marlon James. And this is a historical fiction. It was the winner of the 2015 Man Booker Prize for Fiction. It explores the attempted assassination of Bob Marley in the 1970s. It then delves into the streets and slums of Kingston in the 70s, the drug wars in the 80s in New York, and then to a radically altered Jamaica in the 90s. And I'm actually really excited to read this book. It is pretty thick, but I actually really like Bob Marley's music, and so I'm interested to read this book. The 8th book I'm going to read is Carry On by Rainbow Rowell, and I actually have not read any Rainbow Rowell. I know, horrible English teacher, especially since it's all over BookTube and everyone loves Fangirl, and anyway, I haven't read it yet, so we're gonna remedy that and read Carry On. It is a young adult contemporary, I believe, and it follows Simon Snow. Let's go back. I think it's a contemporary, but it actually is the book that is being written in the book Fangirl. So anyway, I should probably read Fangirl too, because then it would make sense. But anyway, it follows Simon Snow in his last year at Watford School of Magics. His wand works half the time and acts up the other half. He deals with normal teenage issues as well as unique things that come with living in a magical world. I'm pretty excited about this book. It also has a very beautiful cover, and I enjoy that. The 9th book I want to read this year is Bossypants by Tina Fey. And I love Tina Fey. I think she's hysterical, and I've actually really been getting into memoirs lately of celebrities. I just finished reading in January Troublemaker by Leah Remini, and I'll talk about that in another video. But so I thought I'd pick up Tina Fey's Bossypants, and even if you just look at the cover, it's hysterical. Like this man arm right here leaning against, it's just funny. I enjoy it. So it has it's like overall 5 stars on GoodReads by pretty much everyone who's read it, and so I'm excited to read this book. And lastly, the 10th book I want to read this year is Afterworlds by Scott Westerfeld. This book is a young adult fantasy, and it follows Darcy Patel. She is writing a book called Afterworlds about a young girl whose name is Lizzie, who slips into the afterworld to escape a terrorist. And the book alternates chapters from Darcy, the one who's writing the book, to Lizzie, the one in the book. And so I actually loved The Uglies. I can't even hold this straight. The Uglies series written by Scott Westerfeld. And I recommended that to a couple of my students, and one of my students picked this up because she liked that series so much. She found this one in the media center, and she told me that it was great. So I want to read it this year too. And that is it for my 10 standalone novels that I want to read in 2016. If you've read any of these novels and want to let me know what you thought of them, please comment down below. As this is my first video, I just really, really appreciate you watching. If you liked the video, give it a thumbs up. If you want to see more videos from me, please subscribe. And that's about it. You can follow me on Twitter if you want. That's all I have out there for social media right now. And again, I really appreciate you watching the video. I hope you all have a great day, and I will see you later. Bye.